Hey everyone, my name is Bryce Garrett, and today I'm going to be telling you guys about how I filmed a baseball documentary at the age of 18. Now before we get started, I just want to first of all say thank you guys. The overwhelming support on YouTube was more than I honestly ever thought I was going to get. So thank you guys all for watching it and for all the new subscribers who are here. So this video today will be split into 3 different segments, starting off with pre-production, then we'll be moving into production, and then post-production. Now, all the things I'm going to be talking about today are going to be a lot of what I did personally, and I'll make sure to let you know if this is what you should have done instead of what we did, because we really did not have a lot of experience going into this, and we were kind of just figuring it out as we went. So starting off with pre-production, one of the very first things that we did was we went to the coaching staff and asked them if it was okay to film their team for their upcoming season. Now, luckily for me, I already somewhat knew the coach, so it was really easy to kind of introduce myself and get that access. But I know a lot of coaches are very against that, so you really gotta make sure if this person is someone you don't know very well, that you kind of give them a background about yourself and show them some of your resume, some of the stuff that you filmed, so that they know that you're legit and you're not some random guy. After I got coach's permission, I made an Instagram for my baseball team because there wasn't one already. And this was very important because it allowed me to build a base of followers of not only the players and the parents, but also other people throughout my school, so that when I went to go post the baseball documentary announcement, more than just the players and coaches knew about it, and I could make it a little bit of a bigger deal. Now, the next thing you gotta do is develop your videographer team. Now, coming from a school with a very big media program and a lot of people who were interested in sports, that didn't really come as a challenge. You know, there was kind of people readily available and a lot of people that were willing to jump on board with the idea. And I was able to land about 6 other people to help film. Now, you do not need 6+ people to film a documentary. You could honestly get away with yourself and like 1 or 2 other people, but I just like the idea of having a bigger group of people to help work on this thing, to get as many different camera angles as possible. Once I was able to put together a team, we started talking about scheduling. So we went and we looked at all the different games, home and away, figured out who could film at what games, and created a schedule so that every week I could look and see who was going to be at what game. I also got lucky with this because with Homestead Media, we had just started the Homestead Athletics program, which allowed for every sport to get covered on Instagram with live feed updates. So we were already doing a lot of planning with other sporting events. So this wasn't anything new to us, but it was just another sport that we had people schedule for. Finally, the last and most important thing for your pre-production is finding a good hard drive. So for us, I got the Western Digital Easy Store. I got about 16 terabytes because we had a ton of people who were going to be filming a ton of 4K footage, so we need a lot of storage space. But if your team is going to be a smaller team of 2 to 3, then I'd get something that's 8 terabytes or less. And this Easy Store will be linked down below, as well as anything else I mentioned in this video. So make sure to go check out those links once you're done watching. All right, so now that you've gotten out of the pre-production side, let's go a little bit into the actual filming and creating the documentary side of things. So usually before every game, me and the players would either text about it or meet in person if it was a school day, and just kind of talk about who's gonna film what shots. We'd kind of look at the stadium if we were going to an away game to kind of see the layout and see where everybody wanted to be. And it really helped clear up a lot of confusion when it came to the actual filming part, because we didn't have to talk about it and rush. As soon as we got to the game, we kind of already knew what we were gonna do, and it made things a lot simpler for us and a lot less stressful for everyone there, and it seemed like we were a really put together team. One thing we didn't do during the production side was set all of our camera times to the exact same, and this really cost me in the editing portion of the whole documentary because I had to go in and manually order all the clips based off of their time, versus if you just set the time for all the different cameras that are filming for you and then it all gets dumped in the folder, they will all get ordered in the exact order of when they were shot. So it's super easy to figure out where everything is and edit the whole documentary in chronological order. Now, one thing I was getting asked a lot about was how do we, address the coaches and the players about having cameras actually there at the games. And we mainly just sat down with them during, I guess, the first practice. We mentioned at the very end, like, don't pay attention to the cameras unless it's a big moment, so we could get those cool things. But we really wanted the interactions and everything you saw on screen to be as genuine as possible, so we didn't want people acting around just for the camera. And setting that up at the very beginning, along with the coaches really nailing that down to the players, allowed for us to get a really authentic experience on camera and make the whole documentary feel real. Now, once you're at the game, in terms of filming, each person should kind of know what they're going to be filming throughout the night, but a lot of what we did was we followed the players, not necessarily the ball, because the ball is so small compared to other sports and it's really hard to track. So the entire time we mainly just focused on the players, and say there was a home run, we'd just do a wide shot that angled and panned out towards the wall so you could sort of see the ball when it came down, but we mainly just focused on the players for the entirety of our filming. And then we also either had people in the dugouts, or the person who was filming the game would pan to the dugouts to get player reactions and cool interactions, which a lot of those things I'm really glad we got. And if we hadn't thought about it beforehand, we wouldn't have gotten any of it. So after we're done filming, if it's a Friday going into a weekend, usually everyone would have to save their SD cards until the next school day. Or if it was like a midweek game, like a Tuesday, we all come in on Wednesday, drop our footage, and that is where we would sort through everything. So in these sorting sessions, we look for the critical moments and some of the funny moments. We'd kind of tag everything so that when we go to edit, it's super seamless. And we'd also use these big moments to help write out our questions to both the coaches and the players for the interviews that we would do at the very end of the season. During these sorting sessions, we'd also go and see if there was any extra broadcast footage or broadcaster vocals that we could use in our documentary. And if there was, we'd go and email the organization and say, hey, we're making a baseball documentary that is for our, educational practices in our class. And every single time they said yes, especially if you follow it with the fact you're doing it for education. But if you're just doing it by yourself, it may or may not work out for you. So once all the filming wrapped up, the season was over, we scheduled interviews with all the players and the coaches during the 2 equipment drop-off days that the team was scheduled to do, so that nobody had to go out of their way to do these interviews, and they could get them knocked out when they were already there to do their equipment drop-off. So this made it super seamless. It was 2 long 8-hour days, but these 2 8-hour days help basically tell the entire story. And honestly, the interviews are some of the biggest portions of the documentary, so they're definitely not something you want to skip over. Now for these interviews, I use the Tascam DRL-10 Pro, which is what I'm currently plugged into right now. And these are great because they're super portable and you don't have to have anything else with them. It's just the mic and the little box. They take these AAA batteries, so you can buy rechargeable ones and stock up a ton because you're going to need a bunch for the day. But the battery lasts a pretty long time too, so you honestly don't need a ton of them. You just might need a couple pairs. So that will be linked down below as well. And then for these interviews, we didn't use any lights. We mainly just used a light bounce, which are those like circular things that are silver. It kind of projects light up, and we used a lot of natural light in windows and faced it to reflect the light back because it was outside, it was midday, there was a ton of light to work with, so there wasn't really any reason to use any electronic lights for those. And now that you've finished production, it is time for probably the longest segment, which is post-production. Now, during the post-production side of things, the entire time I use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit. And I mainly did that because I got it for free while I was in high school, and I get it for a very discounted price in college. So I'm able to get the entire Adobe suite, use Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe Photoshop for like extra graphics, Adobe After After Effects for the motion graphics. So post-production took me about 5 months, mainly because I started it in June once the season ended, and it carried all the way over until November while I was going through my first semester of college, which is why it took so long, because I kept, procrastinating, or I would have to work on it in little hour segments. I couldn't really just sit down and focus on it for long periods of time. Now, in terms of the actual edit, before we even did anything with editing, we sat down and storyboarded how do we want each segment to look based off of how the season went, because we couldn't script how the season was going to go. So once the entire thing was done, we're kind of able to assess, okay, here's what happened during this game, and kind of figure out where are the biggest moments and the most cinematic story-like games that we wanted to really highlight, and the ones that we kind of just wanted to brush over but still have a little bit of coverage for. So that honestly set me up with a roadmap and a to-do list of here's what you gotta do to get this documentary from nothing to something. One of the next big editing tips is to edit in chronological order. This saved me a ton of time because I was able to just start at the very beginning, and I was able to relive the moments, and it helped me sort of tell the story better, because I could go back to how I was feeling and how the team was feeling and really insert that emotion into each part of the story that we edited. And it really helped me not get confused, because I wasn't bouncing from start of the season to the end of the season. I was just going from start to finish, and no confusion there. So once the documentary was probably 90% of the way done, I started showing it to different people, friends, family, teachers, professors, and really just got their feedback, because everyone kind of sees things differently. And after watching the documentary back so many times, you're either gonna think it's the best thing ever, or you're gonna think it sucks. So you're gonna really want to get that feedback to see what other people truly think, so that you can kind of get over your mental block of what you think your documentary is. Once I got all my feedback and I finished the documentary and I thought it looked great, I went in and took a bunch of clips from both the interviews and the documentary itself, and I put together a trailer with music. And the music I sort of based off of the title of the documentary, which I kind of just came up with towards the end. So then I edited together the entirety of the trailer and ended up, hyping it up on the Instagram I talked about before, my YouTube channel, Facebook, all the different social platforms, and then I posted it, and that's where you get your initial hype for the documentary. And in this trailer, you should specify that there's a specific date when it'll be dropping, either in person if you want to do an in-person premiere and have access to do something like that, or if you drop it digitally, which is something I also did after my in-person premiere, where I uploaded it to YouTube so that everybody could watch it no matter if they came to the in-person premiere or not. So with all that being said, that is how I filmed a documentary at the age of 18 years old. Hopefully you guys found the information in this video valuable. And if you want to check out any of the products that I used to film the entire documentary, whether I mention them in this video or not, they will all be linked down below. So with all that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.